Taylor Hall is now an Arizona Coyote. The New Jersey Devils traded him to Arizona for a package of players and draft picks. That means Taylor Hall is now in the same division again, well, with the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, he was last in the Pacific as an Edmonton Oiler, the team that drafted him in 2010. The Oilers were rumored to be in the mix to acquire Taylor Hall, who is 2 years off of winning the Hart Trophy as the NHL's MVP. Derek, what does this mean for the Oilers having Taylor Hall back in their division?
Well, one, it means that Oiler fans get to see him a couple more times. I think coming here once a year, probably Oiler fans would like to see him more than once a year. But it also means that suddenly the Coyotes have become the front runner, I think, in the Pacific Division. They're the first to make a move and show their intentions of wanting to win the division. And I think this is a bold move by the Coyotes. This is a team that really hasn't done much in the last 10 years, I guess. And their general manager suddenly has to make some moves now. And I think it was a situation where the Coyotes keep kind of that same cycle of ineptness, I guess. It was eventually going to cost their general manager their job. Now they have a good team, and they make a bold move by bringing Taylor Hall into the mix. And I think for a lot of Oilers fans that were hoping that Taylor Hall would land here, you saw the price tag for Taylor Hall. And the price tag was high for a player like Taylor Hall, of, like you said, former league MVP. It was interesting because what the Oilers got for Taylor Hall was nothing really compared to what the Coyotes were willing to give up for Taylor Hall. They gave up a first-round pick. They gave up a second-round pick, which turns into a first-round pick if the Coyotes make it past the first round of the playoffs and Taylor Hall signs an extension there. And they also got 3 prospects, one of which was a first-round prospect. So you look at it, and they almost gave up 3 first-rounders. It's potentially could give up 3 first-rounders for Taylor Hall. And, of course, the Edmonton Oilers got a very good, a very stable, but stay-at-home defenseman, Adam Larson, for Taylor Hall. That was a one-for-one trade, which kind of surprised a lot of people when it happened in Edmonton, the fact that it was 1-for-1, and there wasn't a draft pick or a prospect or something else thrown in for the Edmonton Oilers when it came to Peter Chiarelli. But as we came to find out with Peter Chiarelli, he wasn't the shrewdest negotiator. This is the guy that threw a lot of money around, and this guy that you could say lost a lot of trades. He did make some good moves, but he did lose a lot of trades. So it set the market for a player like Taylor Hall. He's probably the most valuable player on the market, and it really set the intentions of the Arizona Coyotes. And now we're going to see if the Oilers respond, trying to get something to help them out, if the other teams in the Pacific Division respond, because it is quite a battle for first place in the Pacific.
I mean, not to be a Peter Chiarelli apologist, but when he made the Hall trade for Adam Larson, I mean, that was more of a hockey trade at the time. You're trading 2 players that are similar in age. Larson did have a contract that was a little smaller than Taylor Hall's. I mean, whether or not the Oilers did their due diligence and beating around the bush for the best trade deal when they did get the Larson trade made, it was at a different time of year. Outside of it being considered a very deep draft this coming 2020 draft, of which that first-round pick is in play, there's a whole lot of maybes going back to New Jersey. There's no name player.
Yeah, these aren't blue chip prospects that the Devils got back. You're right. They got Merkley as the first rounder. They got a second rounder and a third rounder. So they got guys that they hope can turn into serviceable NHL players. I think the big thing is the first round pick and the second round pick if it turns into a first round pick. Now, if Arizona is looking at this and they're able to sign Taylor Hall, then they'll probably be happy giving up 2 first-round picks for Taylor Hall, even if those other 3 guys don't work out. But you're right about that trade with the Oilers made with Larson. That was a hockey trade, and I think the signing of Milan Lucic had something to do with that as well, because I think Peter Chiarelli thought, we got Milan Lucic, Lucic will kind of fill some of the offense that they're losing with Taylor Hall. Plus, they were getting some very good defense with Adam Larson. So I think that's where the reasoning came in with the Taylor Hall trade for Adam Larson. Of course, it didn't work out as they wanted. Milan Lucic didn't work out. He, 3 years into a 7-year deal, they had to move him. But it seemed to work out for the time being because James Neal is playing some pretty good hockey, and he's probably going to get 20 goals for the Oilers this year.
Now, with this move by the Coyotes, it's on the Oilers and I guess every other team that has intentions to make the playoffs to start thinking, hey, we might have to make a deal as well. Taylor Hall is arguably probably by far the biggest player on the trade market as far as something that was going to get moved. I don't know if anything else really compares, any other player really compares to him in terms of a player changing teams. So now it's up to the Oilers and every other team to try to improve their lineup via trade. A, what do the Oilers target? And B, does this sort of a move actually affect the Oilers? Does it change the team's mindset? As in, hey, look, Arizona got better. we have to pull up our socks. And then on the management side, now we have to, if we are serious about making the playoffs, and I know Ken Holland isn't the kind of GM who's being rushed here, because Holland has said he wasn't about to trade away the future. But how does this affect the Oilers?
Well, it does affect them because now the Oilers have to try and keep up. What this does is it set the bar, and usually the bar is set a little later in the season when you get closer to the trading deadline. We're still a couple months away from the trading, almost 3 months away from the trading deadline. So it's set the bar, and now teams have to respond. And it'll be interesting to see how the Oilers and Ken Holland respond. Ken Holland didn't want to give up what he couldn't afford to give up what Arizona gave up for Taylor Hall. Let's be certain there. They couldn't afford to him. They weren't going to sign Hall long term because Taylor Hall is going to cost you about $8.5-9 million next year. The Oilers don't have that kind of room under the salary cap. But what this does, though, it does make the Oilers think about getting some help on the second, on the third, on the fourth line, getting some guys that can help them out, because they do need some help. And I think Arizona is kind of taking the game to the next level now. And you're going to see now, as teams kind of start separating from each other, you're going to see the playoff teams and the non-playoff teams, and then you're going to look at those non-playoff teams, look at their roster to see if there's a guy on that team that could help you out that non-playoff team is willing to trade.